Xiaomi's new drone, new Pebble devices, and virtual reality backpack computers? That's what I like. Hello and welcome back to this weird, wild, wonderful, fun thing that I like to do every week where I talk about all of the things that I found in the news related to things that I like. First up, let's talk about drones. Xiaomi unveiled their very first drone this week. It's in partnership with a third party of some form or fashion, and they're calling it the Mi drone. It starts at just $380. Now, $380 is going to get you the 1080p version of this. You have to jump up to $460 if you want to get a 4K capable camera, but this looks to be aiming squarely at the DJI low-end drones. Not necessarily the Phantom 4. It doesn't sound like it has obstacle avoidance or anything, but it's a little larger. It's got a built-in gimbal, brushless motors and whatnot, so it's not exactly toy grade. It's quite a bit above that. And the price difference between the two, it's almost a given. Why wouldn't you go for the slightly more high-end one? At less than $100 difference. $80 difference for 4K versus 1080p, that's kind of a no-brainer. The article also mentions it has a 5100 milliamp hour battery, although it doesn't exactly go into how long that battery lasts, but I believe, if I remember reading it somewhere else, it's supposed to be on par with the older DJI one, so around 23 to 25 minutes. But according to Xiaomi, the 1080p version is going to be crowdfunded on the Mi Home app starting on May 26, which actually was yesterday according to now, and the 4K version is going to be available for testing via an open beta program starting at the end of July. So that's the one reason I can see to go with the 1080p version. Still, I would almost rather hold out till the end of July and pick up the 4K. 4K is good. As a relatively quick update, DJI has updated their app to allow Facebook live streaming from the DJI drones. I actually haven't tested out YouTube streaming from it or anything. I haven't done anything live from my Phantom 3, so maybe I need to start looking into these things. Now moving on to some general tech news. As I mentioned in the intro, Pebble is back with another Kickstarter project. This time for the Pebble 2, the Pebble Time 2, and what they're calling Core. They're all updates to existing products except for the Core, which is a new little standalone device. It has a micro SIM card slot, it can do 3G, GPS, Spotify, basically a lot of the things your phone can do without actually being a full-fledged phone. So it doesn't make phone calls, it doesn't receive emails or anything, but it has internet connectivity and it can do a limited amount of things based on that, as long as you have a micro SIM of your own to put into it. As far as the Pebble 2 and the Pebble Time 2, you have newer specs, better battery, better screen, bigger screens. If you hadn't noticed, I've been rocking the Pebble Time itself since the Kickstarter launched it, and I did go ahead and jump in on the Pebble Time 2 with the Core. It was like $229 for an early bird Pebble Time 2 plus Core bundle. So be on the lookout for that. They're going to be shipping those starting in, I think, November, and the Pebble 2 should start shipping in September, if I remember correctly, and then the Core doesn't ship until January of next year. So kind of a weird timeline there. Either way, if you're interested in any of those devices, link to the Kickstarter can be found down below. I'm still actually planning on doing a follow-up video on my Pebble Time because I've been using it for a while and I do love this device. So let me know if you'd like to see that down below. Another very interesting crowdfunding campaign, there's a product called Paperlike, and it's an e-ink monitor for your PC. It's a 13.3-inch e-ink display with a USB connection. You plug it into your desktop, your laptop, whatever it is you've got, and it gives you an additional, I think it's set up to 1600 by 1200, 13.3-inch display, but it's all e-ink. And they've been working to increase the refresh rate. They've been working to make it look more smooth and function more smoothly. You wouldn't necessarily want to use it for watching videos or playing games or anything, but for just simple reading and text entry, word processing, spreadsheets, things like that, it should be excellent. The problem with that is the price point. It's something like $699 for the super early bird, which I think is already sold out, $799 for whatever's available right now, and I think it's going up to $899. But that $899 bundle is going to come with a couple of extra little gifts. Still, for a monitor, that's a little high. It's a little pricey in my opinion. I would kind of rather pay, I think AOC makes a monitor that's a little bit lower resolution, but it's 12 or 13 inches and it's like $100. It's not e-ink, but it's an external USB powered monitor. I would love to have an e-ink monitor hooked up to my PC. I think that'd be really cool, but that's just that price point. Anyway, moving on. Olympus has released a new super rugged, super tough 4K action camera. This is called the Stylus Tough TG Tracker. And according to the article, The Verge title, you can drop, drown, and crush Olympus's new 4K camera. It has a built-in LCD screen, it's got a high-intensity LED light built into it, waterproof up to 100 feet, dustproof, can withstand 220 pounds of force, so don't go over it with your car, shockproof up to 7 feet, freeze-proof down to 14 degrees Fahrenheit, 14 degrees is not that cold. Still, if you're interested in something like this, it's going to be $350 here in the US and be available in June. Definitely very tempting. A little bit high price for an action camera, but for one that's rugged, not bad. Now, speaking of 4K, Dell has unveiled a 43-inch 4K monitor. And it's not just 4K monitor. It's like a $1,300 or $1,400 4K monitor. But the cool thing about it is 4K, if you aren't familiar with what that actually means, 4K is basically 4 times the size of 1080p. And Dell is taking advantage of that fact by making it possible to support up to 4 clients on one screen. Meaning you can have 4 1080p images displaying simultaneously. So if your graphics card supports 4 outputs, you could technically have one machine, one monitor, 4 outputs all in one place. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Very, very cool. And at any time, you can pick one of those to scale out to be full 4K, and then when you're done, go back to 4 1080p monitors. When you consider that 4 1080p monitors are going to cost you in the neighborhood of, let's say, $500 to $700 if you go for the low-end models, and one 4K monitor, a 43-inch 4K monitor, would probably run you in the neighborhood of $1,000 for a halfway decent one. It's really not that bad of a price. I would just be curious to see how it works with the software, if you have to have something on the back end, if it only works with certain types of machines. Maybe it only works with Windows and doesn't work with Mac, I don't know. It's still really tempting. Anyway, links about that down below. Moving right along though, with the Galaxy S6, Samsung made an Iron Man themed Galaxy S6, a very limited edition run of it. And apparently with the Galaxy S7, specifically the S7 Edge, they're making a Batman-themed one. Timely, I assume, with the Batman vs. Superman thing that happened. But as with the Iron Man model, it is going to be limited. It says it's only going to be available in early June in China, Singapore, Korea, Latin America, and Russia. You gotta know it's going to end up in the US eventually as well. And it says that the reasoning for it's not Batman vs. Superman. It's Injustice Gods Among Us. Not a game that I've played, but still. It apparently also comes with a Gear VR headset, a gold-plated batarang, and a rubber phone case modeled after Batman's armor, so it should be all nipply and yeah. Moving along. OnePlus made a few announcements this week as well. One, they're knocking the price down on all of their devices, presumably leading up to the OnePlus 3 launch, so $50 off of all of the devices they sell, which they weren't hugely highly priced to begin with, so they're knocking them down even further. That ain't bad. You can now get a OnePlus X for $199. Very, very nice. They've also announced that the OnePlus 3 launch, when it does happen, it's going to happen in VR, just like the OnePlus 2 event, and to go along with that, just like they did with the previous event, they're giving away these VR headsets. It's a very limited run. It says 30,000 of them, but instead of the cardboard ones they did before, they're doing what they're calling OnePlus Loop VR headsets. They're plastic, they go over your head. I've actually got some VR headsets up there that are kind of like this, but I went ahead and got my name in the pot for one. You give them $5 for shipping, they'll ship it to you. Hopefully mine will be here sometime soon. Maybe we'll take a look at it on video, but it's just going to be a VR headset, nothing really special about it. ZTE unveiled a new flagship device, the Axon 7. According to the CNET article, it has dual front-facing speakers, a 20-megapixel camera, but it also supports Google's Daydream VR platform. It's going to come in at about $450 unlocked. It's got 64 gigs of memory and 4 gigs of RAM, or 128 gigs of storage with 6 gigs of RAM, although the first one there is going to be the only one you can get here in the US. Very interesting looking device though, but it's a little big for my hands, I think. 5.5-inch display with a 1400 pixel resolution. That's an odd way to say it. And to go along with that, ZTE's also announced they're making their own VR headset. There's not much information about it, but it does look kind of like the idea of Gear VR. And when you combine that with the Axon having Daydream compatibility, presumably this would be a Google Daydream compatible VR headset that it may only work with the Axon 7. Again, not a whole lot known about it at this point. And to wrap things up, let's talk more about VR stuff. As I mentioned in the intro, VR backpacks are now a thing. HP, MSI, and Zotac apparently all announced, or roughly the same time, backpacks with computers in them that are VR compatible, VR capable. So basically you take this thing, wear it on your back, strap your whatever VR headset you have, probably the Vive, but whatever VR headset you've got to it, and be able to move around and do things without being wired to the wall, without being tethered to a TV. And they sound like they're all pretty beefy. Core i5 or Core i7, 32 gigs of RAM. I know at least one of them mentioned that they were going to have the GTX 980 in it, so these are going to be pricey little machines, and they're talking about having a battery life, like they actually are going to have a built-in battery life of about an hour if you're doing VR gaming with it. So it's definitely not the best potential option, but still, it's the first of a new generation. I was talking to somebody last night about the HTC Vive, and basically, it's great, it's amazing, it's beautiful, but it's still very much a first generation product. I am waiting for the second, the third, or the fourth generation of these things, and I'm thinking by the time we get to the third or fourth generation, hopefully it will be all bundled together in something that's not ginormous, so that you have all this power and all this performance and all this immersiveness in one small, easy to wear package. So yeah, articles about those things can be found down below as well. And you know what? I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up for today. Lots of excellent news out there, and make sure to check out all the links down in the video description if you're interested in reading about any of those things. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, subscribe to receive more. We'll see you again next time.